This podcast is meant for general health information and is not meant to override any medical advice. All questions will be screened and not contain any personal information. If you want a private consultation, contact us via positivechoice.org, or you can contact your provider directly. Thank you and enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome to the Positive Choice Wellness Podcast. My name is Melanie and I'm an exercise physiologist.
And my name is Kimberly and I'm a registered dietitian.
Hello, Kimberly.
Hello there. How are ya?
I am surviving. It is warm outside.
Seriously, though, it is hot.
Yes, it is. Which, again, we've mentioned this before in other episodes. We record some kind of in advance, so we don't know when this is coming out. For all we know, it could be December. You'll be like, what is it hot outside? Where are you guys at? I don't know. It's July here. It is hot. So,
yes. Yeah.
But aside from the heat, which I don't think is what's going to bring you joy today, unless you're one of those weird people, what brings you joy today, Kimberly?
Yeah, super duper not the heat, not thriving. But for me, this might sound a little bit silly, but I did some I cleaned out some my junk drawers that just accumulate junk for weeks on end. And oh my gosh, my house feels so clean and organized. And I just feel like when my house is clean, my life is together. You know?
So
that's making me happy.
I thrive in a clean environment. So I hear you.
Totally. Same. How about you? What's bringing you joy?
Oh man, I'm going to be so nerdy right now.
I'm so excited.
Oh gosh. So it's a little thing that I have been slowly revealing to people. So you probably don't know this. So I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons and I know.
What?
I know. And I am the dungeon master of the campaign, so the storyteller, if you will, for anyone who's not aware of what this means.
Okay.
So I am essentially creating the game, and I have a bunch of friends who are the players in the game. So I'm creating the story they're supposed to navigate. It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time.
What a fun thing for you to do. I'm like a fun hobby. That's so cool. I have a lot of friends who are I've never played, but I have a lot of friends who are really into it. So that's cool.
It takes a certain type of person. It's definitely weird for those who don't know about it. You have to role play and pretend to be your character. But I'm everybody because I am the narrator. So I am every character that isn't a player. So that little boy who lost his dog, that's me. So that's where we're at. We just had
fun for you.
Yeah, we just had our first session this last weekend, and I think it went well. I curated a playlist. I was on it. So we're ready.
Oh, that's great. You're the best. What is it? Dungeon Master? That's great.
Yes, the DM. So yes, that's what I am.
The DM. I love it.
But yeah, what turns out when you teach classes for Kaiser, you're really good at corralling people. And I utilize that skill set really well. And I was like, man, I like this. This is nice.
That is awesome. You're like, yeah, this is my comfort zone right here.
So that's what brings me joy, because I've been revealing my nerdery to folks, which I'm pretty open about being a huge nerd, but I accept it. It's my life.
Accepted it. I love it. That is awesome. That is so awesome.
Now, today's topic has nothing to do with any of that. So
true.
We are going to talk about something that I think is actually kind of important, because one, I was checking through just to see, older episodes. What have we talked about? Because it's been a long time since we started this podcast, a few years. And, we can't remember all the topics. But one we haven't talked about in a minute has been protein.
Yes, which is it's very relevant. Well, I mean, always, right? But very relevant right now, especially with trendy fad situations going on. So I'm glad we're talking about this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's definitely, it's kind of protein's becoming kind of like a buzzword now, which I find funny. Mm-hmm. And I actually recently just did a talk on protein for one of our booster programs. So I had a decent sized class too. So people want to know about it.
Wow. Great.
So yeah, I thought it would be a good thing to bring here just because, we haven't really talked about it in a while, at least not in the last couple of years. And it would also be helpful just to kind of dive into, what do we need to know about it? Is it essential? Why is everyone suddenly obsessed with it? And all those weird niche diets maybe that are cropping up that involve it. So, so yeah, let's talk about protein. And I guess a good place to start would just be what is it?
That's a good question, right? Because sometimes we're all about it without even knowing the purpose that it serves, I suppose.
All the time.
Right?
People are always like,
Right?
oh yeah, this thing. What is it? Oh, I don't know.
I don't know, but I know it's good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a good question. Protein is like essentially a building block in nearly every like tissue and organ in our body. It is so vital. But it goes beyond that too, I will say. So we know we need protein to like put on muscle mass, but we also know we need protein to like heal wounds and to get better. So protein is so versatile. It has so many purposes in our body, but I would say largely that's the function. That's why we need it, right? There's several facets to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like to use this example with classes that I teach too, because when I talk about diets that are out there, I always say like, you ever heard of a protein-free diet? Ever?
Yes. Right. No, we have not.
You don't. It's not a thing. And there's a reason why, actually, because you've heard of fat-free diets or carb-free diets, but you don't hear of protein-free diets, primarily because of all the macronutrients that we eat, carbs, fats, and proteins. Proteins is the one thing that we just can't make our own. We need to consume it in food.
Right. Considered essential, right? Like our body cannot make any of the so protein's made up of amino acids, right? And I believe there's nine that are considered essential, which means your body cannot make them. So yes, we have to get them in through food, which I feel like is good news.
Yeah. Oh, hey. Yeah. I mean, in the world of dieting, I would say that's the one macronutrient that really hasn't been villainized. And if anything, it's actually put on a pedestal now.
Agreed.
But it's just to be aware of, like, I think it's important to know a little bit about it beyond just like, it's good for you. It's essential. It's essential. We have to have it. It's something that we need to have enough of, which I think there's a little bit of an issue going on now with a lot of things that involve losing weight. Some diets out there are promoting a lot of it, but then there's others that aren't necessarily promoting protein, just like, like weight loss medications, for example. What they don't talk about sometimes is how much you lose muscle mass, and protein's been shown consistently in the research to help preserve lean muscle mass if you eat enough of it during weight loss.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely.
So I guess like, if you've like with the classes you've taught, have you encountered people who have asked you like, why is protein important, or like, what do I need it for? Or how much, like, I guess another one's like, how much do I need?
Yes. Okay. All good questions. I feel like, and you can probably speak to the same experience. I feel like I've had everything across the spectrum. People who are like, but do I have to eat it? Because I don't like love the food groups, right, that are traditionally high in protein. And then on the other end of that, people who are like all about it, can't get enough of it, and supplementing and like doing all these things. So yeah, I think it's a good question. How much do I need? Because that's a super, super common. I think that there's, with the internet nowadays, infinity answers to that question. So I will say to keep it kind of like simple for your brain and to not overdo it or underdo it, because it's very, possible to do either one of those, is essentially just take your body weight in pounds, right? Because that's what we use here. Divide it in half. And that's roughly how many grams of protein you should be having in a day. So
give or take.
Example, give or take. So for example, someone who's 200 pounds, roughly 100 grams of protein a day.
That's pretty easy to remember.
Yeah. You could probably even make it like, 10 or 15 below that to 10 or 15 above that. Give yourself a little range.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to make it simple on yourself, because there's like I said, a lot of answers out there with that one.
Yeah, because I like you get that question a lot. Like, how much do I need? And like, I am not a dietitian. While I do know how to calculate out how to do that, I technically am not supposed to, because that's your job. And so stepping on toes is not something I like to do. And so I do know the formulas for it, but as a general recommendation from like Kaiser and from Positive Choice is basically about 20 grams of protein per meal. If you do 3 meals a day, 5 to 10 per snack, give or take.
Exactly.
I do want to follow this up with saying, though, I don't want anyone listening to this podcast feel like they need to hyper obsess with their protein consumption. This is not what we're telling you to do. We're just specifying, like, if you're curious, it's generally kind of about how much you would need.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And you do not need to your point, you do not need to like count the exact grams or whatever to see success or to make sure you're getting in enough or whatever the case may be. You can pay attention to simply like servings, right? 3 or 4 servings a meal, 1 or 2 servings for a snack. You should be able to hit your protein needs in a day fairly fairly simply.
Exactly. But I guess it's just interesting because there is definitely a push for it. And I've seen this kind of stuff out in the wild, like high protein items like marketed towards people. So like high protein bars or like protein water or like just things that just have protein in them, which is kind of a lot. And so I do want to say, like, you could do too much too.
Yes, exactly right. You can have too much of even a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Just like we can have too much water, we can have too much protein as well. And you're right. It's I think because like you mentioned, it's a buzzword. It's so used in marketing. I've just seen protein chips, right? Like, it's everywhere. It's in, so anyway, it is absolutely like a marketing technique that they're using as well.
It's a frustrating technique because it's an essential nutrient we do need to consume, and yet it's being used in a marketing way.
Exactly, as a strategy,
yeah. Generally speaking, would you say like probably most people eat enough naturally, or?
Yeah, good question. I would say yes. If you're paying attention, let me say that. If you're paying attention and again, having like 3 or 4 servings for a meal, 1 or 2 servings of protein for a snack, yes, you should be you should be hitting your needs just fine. You do not need to supplement. And supplements have their place. Absolutely. But as a dietitian, I'll always tell you whole food over the form of supplement, because supplements are easier to, kind of overdo it, to be honest, and start to hit that threshold of having too much. And that goes with any kind of supplement. But so yeah, I would stick with whole food first over supplement. But yeah.
I would agree with that because that's usually what I recommend too. Like get your nutrients from food first, and then in a pinch, use supplements. Like, for example, if someone is plant-based, which is like, honestly, of the populations, people who might be underdoing it, those are usually the people who are because, you can get complete proteins from plants. Like you absolutely can. It's very doable. And we'll probably talk about that in a moment. But the main point being is, if you're not paying attention, which a lot of people think it's really easy, just eat plants, like don't worry about it, and they don't really pay attention to what they're doing, you can underdo it and actually have problems that way. And I've known way too many people who are vegetarian or vegan who had to start eating protein like from animals again because they just could not get enough in their diets.
Right. Exactly. So I think it involves, if you are plant-based or thinking about going plant-based, there's absolutely benefits to it. You just have to I don't know, almost be thinking, exactly. Being a little more aware of it, perhaps.
Yeah. And I think that's where it is cool to mention this because like, there's 2 worlds of thought here. Cause like there's plant-based eating, which the concern I think is almost always, am I going to get enough protein from plant-based eating? There's omnivorous eating, which is you eat all the things, plants or animals. You kind of don't have a preference on either, which those groups of people generally are okay as far as getting enough protein.
Yeah.
And then there's the polar opposite, which is people who just eat protein, which is like a new diet trend right now, the carnivore diet, where they're eating excessive amounts of protein.
Yeah.
And
dare I say copious.
Copious is a great word for this. Copious. So it's 2 polar ends of the spectrum here. And I know plant-based eating is not intended to be protein free. That's not the intention of it. But those groups of people, if not being really diligent in what they're doing, can undereat, not intentionally, but can undereat protein. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where everyone's just going hog wild on that protein. They're just having at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. It's funny. There's not a lot in the middle. There's a lot of both sides of the spectrum.
Like, because I'm not exclusively plant-based. I do eat a lot of plant-based protein. So this is definitely up in my wheelhouse, but I do eat a lot of plant-based stuff because it comes with the territory of like this job.
That's true. That is super fair. Yes.
I was a big red meat eater until I started working here. And now I'm like closer to vegetarian than not. So, which is very wild to think about my eating habits over the last decade. But, I think it's just interesting because like we'll start, I think, here with plant-based protein and plant-based eating, because I think there's a lot of value to eating plant-based, not necessarily exclusively. I don't necessarily believe personally in doing something 100% like something, but if that's your choice, by all means.
Right.
I do think there is a benefit to it, though, considering the vast majority of Americans undereat fiber. And one of the best places to get fiber is from plants. So if you're eating plant-based, you can get complete protein from those products and enough fiber that way. So it's a twofer.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's just what's interesting to me about the ultra trendy fad diets that take out or completely omit the fiber side of things. That's where I struggle with those. But anyway, fiber, super important. We like it.
Exactly. And you absolutely can get enough protein from plants. Like you absolutely can. There's definitely options out there. Like what are some of those plant-based protein options that people can grab and they're good?
Gosh. Okay. That's a good question because there's a lot. Soy-based products, right? So things like tofu, tempeh, edamame, right? Things like that. Quinoa is also actually a good source of protein, while it is also, a good source of carb as well. Beans, I think we traditionally know, have a good source of protein as well. Nutritional yeast, which can be fun. Do you mess with nutritional yeast much, by the way?
I don't really eat a ton of it. I do have it in my pantry, but I don't use it as much as I probably should. It's usually like if I'm making something, I'll like throw in a little bit of that in there. But
yeah.
I can't even think off the top of my head last time I did that. I think it was a lentil stew that I made.
Oh, ooh,
that's probably the last one I used it for.
Okay. I love that. Nutritional yeast is actually a pretty dense source. Like only a couple of tablespoons gives you about 8 grams of protein, which is great.
Very good.
But it does, for anyone who doesn't know, it's like yellow and flaky, and it basically gives the smell and taste of cheese. If you are plant-based, it's very similar in that way.
They ferment beets and then they like dehydrate it off of the beets. So that's typically where they create it, or like some sort of fermenting vegetable. But
ooh, okay. See, science. That's fun.
It dips into my territory. So
I was going to say fermenting.
This yeast is not active. It is dead. You cannot make things with it. FYI, it is an eating thing, not a baking thing. Do not bake with it. You will be sad.
Don't put it in your bread. Yeah.
No, you will not get bread. You will get a lump of dough that is sad.
Exactly.
But those are all great options. And I'm sure there's more.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Right. The list does not end there. There's absolutely a lot more options than that. So because I know this is in your wheelhouse, because I'll admit, I am not as good with going plant-based, at least in my personal home. If someone else has cooked it for me, if I'm at a restaurant, something like that, I'm all about it. But if it's up to me to cook it at home, I'm less good, I'll be honest. So what are some of your favorites? Like what are some good go-tos for plant-based, especially maybe for someone who's looking to just begin, right?
Yeah.
Get their toes in.
If someone's looking for like an easy go-to, I would say seitan is a good one.
Okay.
Seitan. It is made from gluten from bread. So if you have celiac disease, absolutely do not consume this protein. This is a bad option for you if you have celiac, because it is gluten and you're allergic to it.
Yeah.
But I personally, if you don't have celiac or gluten intolerances, I think it's a great option because it's the closest to like meat texture that you can get in plant-based protein. And it does take on the flavor of what you cook in it. So it does absorb the flavors. If you like marinate it in taco seasoning, you can make tacos out of it, like crumble it up, put it in a taco. Or it's like a good ground beef alternative. It holds its texture very, very nicely. So I personally love that one, especially if you're just getting your toes wet, like, oh, what's this about? That's what I would recommend. Alternatively, soy is my next go-to. I do eat a lot of soy in this house. Primarily, it comes in many forms. It depends on what I'm feeling. Cause like I go to the Asian market and I just go to town on that place. I'm like, ooh, fun things. But like they have like, it's called soy paper, not soy paper, but what do I call it? I guess it is soy paper, but it's basically like, if you boil milk and you let it cool down, like a film will form on the milk and you can kind of like pull it off.
Yes.
So they do that with tofu, like tofu sheets. So you boil soy milk to make tofu and it'll have a film that'll dry up on the top. And then they take it and they stack it and stack it and stack it and stack it until it becomes like a disc of just soy skins. It's called soy skins. That's what it's called. Hey. But
that's amazing.
It's basically just the same way you'd make milk version of that, but people eat that, and it has a really delicate texture. It's usually shredded up and thrown as like ground chicken or shredded chicken. So I use that a lot, and also soy curls, which are just another iteration of that. Texturized vegetable proteins, another one you can find like almost anywhere.
Yes, I've heard good things actually about texturized vegetable proteins.
TVP.
Yep. TVP, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And I do personally like tofu. I know a lot of people don't particularly love it because it's pretty bland if you don't do anything with it. But that's the thing; it's bland if you don't do anything with it. So don't just eat tofu; it's bland. Yeah. I love to press it a little bit and then marinate it in something. So typically like garlic, ginger, soy sauce, that kind of stuff. It usually goes Asian, not always.
Yeah.
But that's typically how I will make it. Or if I get the silken kind, I'll blend that up and turn it into a sauce sometimes and put it like sauce things with it.
I have heard good things about that, making things like creamy or silken, right, to the name. And to your point, I've heard patients have told me that before. If you're gonna mess with tofu, I think you said press it, right? Like I had a patient tell me she puts it in between like 2 glass plates and like set some books in there and like some paper towels or something like that. And that really changed tofu for her. She loves it so much more.
I learned a trick from Annalise, so I'll share it because it's an awesome trick. It was back in the day when we were doing cooking classes at the old Igloo building. And she got like 2 cutting boards. So she like lined them with paper towels, put the tofu down, paper towels on top, cutting board on top, and then got a bowl and filled it with water.
Ooh.
And so she just big bowl full of water. And because the bowl itself, you can pour the water out and you don't have to like unstack a million cans and pots and pans. It's quite convenient. So I would recommend a bowl of water, like a large mixing bowl.
Brilliant. I love that idea. That's just wisdom right there.
Weighs it down. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, like those are, and I just had a vegetarian chili for lunch and I used black beans. So like that's,
exactly.
I thrive in the plant-based world just because I enjoy it. It's nice. I love beans. So
yes,
those are usually my go-tos.
Totally. And I think what's a positive to the plant-based is there's so much variety. I feel like, you know what I mean? There's so many different like dishes or things or that you can kind of do with it versus like chicken will always be chicken. Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice that there's so much versatility in there.
I mean, you kind of have to get versatile because, I would say the way plant-based cooking is now is like night and day from where it was 10 years ago. So it is quite a bit different now because people have realized like they want things to taste good. And sometimes plant-based food does not taste great. So you got to like really work a little bit to make it taste the way you want it to taste.
Yes, there's some effort involved there. That's totally true. And I will say to the point of all of this, I love so much more when people want to go plant-based and they do more at home versus getting like the pre-made meatless whatever in the grocery store.
And right? I generally avoid like those hyper processed plant-based proteins that are out there, like the ones that are imitating ground beef, because they're not healthy. They're just plant-based junk food. So I limit those. I really do, like if I'm doing anything, I'll do like veggie crumbles, and you can get those almost anywhere, which is like if you were to cook the plant-based protein imitation beef, it would look just like the veggie crumbles, but minus all the fat. So we just do the veggie crumbles. It's just easier and healthier and, you know. Basically, absolutely. It's TVP. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I personally love it. I think it's great. And it's not, if you're someone who likes a slab of meat or like a piece of chicken or a piece of fish or a piece of steak or something, this plant-based eating will not be like that. That is just unfortunately not the way it goes. You can't just like carve into a block of tofu. I mean, you can, but you got to really like tofu, and not everyone does.
Right.
So there is some more labor and some more prepping involved to make it taste better. And also maybe not a standalone thing in a dish. It's probably going to be mixed in with stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Complemented by, right, like other things in the dish itself. Totally.
Exactly. But yeah, those are generally my favorites personally.
I love it. Those are really good options, and nice to know some like handy ones for folks who might just be starting out or whatever the case may be.
Now, I'll ask you this question just because I think it was interesting that you mentioned it, and then we just kind of like walked right over that one. So you mentioned complete proteins, so needing 9 of these essential amino acids. So what about people who panic about incomplete proteins? Because if we haven't even addressed that, and I guess a good example would be like, technically beans on their own, soybeans are the one exception. So soy is the definite exception here.
Yes.
Outside of that, if you get a bean on its own, it only has 8 of those 9 amino acids. It's missing one.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It's not technically complete, if you will.
Right. Which just means that we need to complement it with something that does contain that one essential amino acid that it might be missing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for example, beans, what usually complements it is rice. Very standard, which is kind of nice actually that they go so well together. But really all it means is when someone says a protein is not complete, it means it's missing at least one of the essential 9 amino acids.
Yeah.
And you just have to find something else that has whatever it is missing right in that meal. And that just enhances absorption / your body needs all those essential amino acids to maximize. So yeah.
And it's funny too, because like I actually had a conversation with my husband about this the other night, and he didn't know this, and so we were just because he was like, he asked me like, so like, do I need to eat like rice and beans together? And I was like, no, you don't. You don't. You don't have to eat them together at all. You can eat them as long as it's in the same day.
Yes,
it does not have to be in the same sitting. So like that's kind of a bit of a myth now of like you have to pair the right foods together and eat them together. No, you just have to eat those foods sometime during your day.
Good point. Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is good news, right? Because it gives you a little bit more wiggle room if, you know, I don't know, rice isn't kicking it for you in that moment or whatever.
Exactly. Which I think is mostly just grains in general. General composition of grains doesn't have to be rice. It could, in theory, it could be quinoa, you know, it could be anything.
Right. Exactly. No, you're completely right.
But yeah, I think that's something just to mention to folks who might panic over like, well, plant-based eating, how to get complete proteins. I mean, you can stick with soy if you're that worried. I mean, that's what I do. I do seitan or soy. Both are complete proteins. I have at them. But if you eat enough sufficiently throughout the day, it's not that big of a deal. But that's where we talked about being aware of what you're doing. That's that example right there.
Yes, exactly. Right. Just having to pay that little bit more attention, perhaps. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Now, let's just kind of really just turn this on a 180 and talk about carnivore.
Yes, let's do it.
Because like I can talk about plant-based protein all day. Like, again, I'm not exclusively plant-based. I'm sorry. I cannot give up cheese or eggs. I like them too much. It's just not happening. And I also love fish. So like that's a diet staple of mine.
Yes. But
I definitely have reduced the amount of red meat that I consume just due to all the research that's out there as far as like how it increases your risk of colorectal cancer and it can cause inflammation in the gut microbiome, which I do focus on a lot with what I like. So like the carnivore diet, just to explain it, and I didn't actually know this 100% until I realized I have a friend who's on it. And she told me straight up because I just thought, oh, it's like the Atkins diet, but rebranded. It's not. It's much worse, in my opinion, in terms of just, I had told her, oh, I made a coleslaw. So this coleslaw is really just vegetables and fat. So like, you know, and I know what the rules are for Atkins. So I told her like, yeah, you know, you could probably have some coleslaw. She said, no vegetables at all. None. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like this is straight up no vegetables. Oh, okay. So I learned something, which I for some reason thought it was a rebranded version of a different diet. So it turns out it's strictly eggs, meat, and sometimes dairy, and that's it.
Exactly. Yes. And I think it depends on the individual person. Some people that I know that have done it straight up meat only, no eggs, no dairy. So I think it does vary depending on, I don't know, maybe what they've seen or like whatever. But yeah, it completely omits obviously several of our big food groups. And just for me, like whenever we're navigating like fad diets or things that are trending, especially with social media nowadays, when whole entire food groups are omitted, that generally throws up a red flag for me, especially when it's things that grow out of the ground more, right? Like I can see people, you know, wavering on carbs because maybe they're more, excuse me, I should say grains because they're more processed or manipulated by the time they get to us, right? But cutting out whole like natural food groups is a little harder to swallow.
I also feel similarly, which is why I'm not like 100% plant-based because I don't want to say I can't have that because like what if I do want to have a burger sometime, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I eat mostly plant-based. I eat what I feel like eating. It's generally healthy and that's just how I go. And that's what I like. But like when we get to something that's super restrictive like carnivore, I mean, it's the same reason Atkins worked. Same exact reason. It works. Like it's not working, but there, you know, there's no long-term studies done on this at all because it's only been in popular culture for probably like 4, maybe 5 years at this point.
Right.
And it wasn't even popular for the first couple of those years. It just existed in our sphere. So we were aware of it, but
right. Yes. But it wasn't necessarily as, you know, blown up as it is right now.
Yeah. And so it's definitely gotten a lot more intense in terms of its popularity with the average person. medicine. And I mean, there's the claims of it causes weight loss, which allegedly, right? Better digestion, allegedly, fewer cravings, mental clarity, allegedly, but very few short-term studies can indicate that it actually is doing any of these things. There's been some indications for weight loss and improve blood sugar markers. Cause like, well, if you're not eating carbs, that's generally what happens.
Of course. Yep.
But the big thing they noticed was there's consistently been elevated bad cholesterol or LDL in most of the participants that go through this process. So while sacrificing the fruits and veggies, which are known to reduce your cholesterol, you're now eating things that can be direct drivers of it. And then as a result, we're seeing exactly what we would expect to see, which is elevated cholesterol levels.
Exactly. Not shocking at all when people are having a lot of, because the type of fat we find in animal products is saturated fat, right? So when we eat, copious amounts of that, perhaps, not shocking that those go up. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's mostly like the success of it's mostly based on anecdotal stories. And that's something that's really common these days in social media. It's all anecdotal. There's no actual research behind it right now. None. There's very, very few, if any, and they're all short-term studies, not long-term. And there's no peer-reviewed studies. So when you look at a study, you want to make sure other people have also looked at it, went, is this valid? Is this good? And sometimes that doesn't happen. And there's been all sorts of false studies thrown out into the universe just for funsies where everyone believes chocolate's healthy as a result of it was a journalist who found a non-peer reviewed paper and published an article about chocolate being healthy. And now everyone thinks chocolate's healthy. And that just came from a made up fake article from a journalist to prove how misinformation spreads with non-peer reviewed studies.
Isn't that the best? Yeah.
And now it's popular information that's not true. So it's interesting how quickly we are to believe something just because if it has quick action, quick results, it's so easy to want to believe it. And I get it.
Yes.
We want a solution.
Yeah. And we want it quick and we want quick results. Right. And so anything that's put out there to us that is faster, rapid, or quick with minimal effort, right? That's what we're looking for when it comes to our health. And so that's what makes these kind of things hard. And I would say too, I think it would be really interesting if a long-term study ever comes out about this, that's good and peer reviewed, what were the diets of the participants before versus now, right? Because if you're eating fast food all the time or, it's not, I can't imagine it's people who are generally healthy, eating fruits and vegetables, moving their bodies that go on this and all of a sudden experience all these health benefits. So
yeah, I totally agree. And since there isn't really any research out there at the moment, it's hard to say.
Exactly. That's true.
What just needs to be recognized is that we here at Kaiser, we promote research-backed, scientifically founded things. And the carnivore diet is not one of those. I'm not necessarily saying don't do it because I'm not a dietitian. I can't tell you anything. You do whatever you want. You live your life. But what I can tell you is I don't think it's wise to do something that omits entire food groups.
Yeah.
All things considered, I have personally done Atkins and I know how it feels. And carbs are delicious. So it's really hard to cut an entire food group out, especially when it's the foundation of our energy sources in our body. That's what we use to be alive. You don't need it, but it's definitely very helpful. So
absolutely.
What I would also say, just moderation's key. And so what we haven't talked about is kind of the middle ground because we talked about two extremes, plant-based, and we talked about carnivore. Yeah. And ultimately, the middle ground is probably where I would recommend people to stick to, or wherever you feel most comfortable, just because the research is out. It's pretty clear that eating a lot of animal products, red meat specifically, is shown to increase your cholesterol, increase your risk of colorectal cancer. It can impact the microbiome and the health of your microbiome. So sticking to stuff that's more plant-based has been consistently shown in the research to be beneficial to the gut and the body.
Yes.
And a little bit of animal proteins is fine. I'm not saying you have to eat a 32-ounce steak every meal. You can once a week enjoy yourself a nice piece of steak. That's fine.
Yeah.
Have it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. There's what I like to call the 80-20 rule, right?
Yes.
Like where you allow yourself to have some 20% of the time, right? Some wiggle room, some, balance in there. Cause if we, especially if you love these types of foods and you tell yourself you can never, ever have them again, we're not really setting ourselves up for success in that way. It's a lot easier to wind up binge eating them later. So yeah, I think that moderation is absolutely key. I think picking, adequate healthy sources is key too. I think that it's important to note too that we eat what the animal eats. So if you are going to go the animal route and it's available to you, maybe thinking about like free range, pasture raised, right? Those kinds of words. Cause it does affect the nutrients that we then consume from the animal. So,
oh, absolutely. Like the quality of what they're eating does impact the quality of them.
Exactly.
But it's you are what you eat. We are the same way. So, hey, it goes hand in hand.
Exactly.
But like most of the research like is indicating that a higher plant-based, not the diet exclusively, but just higher consumption of plant-based foods is the most beneficial as far as how your body is impacted. And the research does not indicate higher quantity of animal-based food is going to do that. And it just is what it is. The research is research for a reason. And so what I think is important just to note here is just if anyone is contemplating stuff because you think it's a quick fix, like, it's always possible just to look up the research for this, going on PubMed or somewhere that's, peer reviewed and seeing like, hey, what is the research around this diet? Is this something that would be helpful? Like, what are the impacts on heart disease or on colorectal cancer or whatever?
Yes, absolutely. Right. Do your own research, do your own digging. Don't just take it at face value, ask questions. Right?
Or you hire a dietitian and they'll guide you and help you with their education, because the other dilemma I would say is like, we can believe anything on social media. You can put anything on the internet. So if you aren't sure, it does help to like talk to people, because there are people out there trained in this profession who are there to be your Sherpa and they can help you right along your journey of how you can eat, which is what we do here at Kaiser too. It's weird.
Yes,
it's like we kind of do that.
It's weird. It's like, it's like, this is something we do at work. But there was something you just hit on that I thought was so good that I wanted to add to. And it's gone from my brain forever.
That's
I'm
okay.
so sorry. But it came to me. I'm so sorry. One thing that we really advocate for at Positive Choice too, I feel like, is like, what can you do for your life? How can you have long-term success, long-term healthy habits? And a lot of these types of things that become trendy and omit big pieces of food groups or whatever, aren't necessarily sustainable for life, right?
Nope.
So that's something we want to think about too. How long can you do this for? Is this a month or is this like for the rest of your life? Because that's what we're looking for. We want you to do healthy things forever.
I mean, the goal is to find a way that you enjoy eating that allows for you to feel like I could do this for the rest of my life and I wouldn't be upset about it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Beautifully said.
That's ultimate goal. Ultimate goal is to find a way of eating that you like, that works for you. And that's like, for me, that's why I keep saying like, I'm not exclusively plant-based because it doesn't work for me. Right. Doesn't mean it doesn't work for other people. You can talk to well, now he's not my supervisor, but now Chris, who's like in charge of the whole department, but he's plant-based. He's exclusively plant-based and it works for him. Like everyone's different.
He's thriving. Yeah, exactly.
He is thriving. I hate him. He's thriving so much.
It's hilarious.
But yeah, so the kind of the summary, the final thought here is really like, the goal is try to have just more variety in your diet, maybe explore some plant-based options. They can definitely fulfill you and be enough as long as you're paying attention and not just willy-nilly eating salads and not really thinking about it.
Right.
Restriction doesn't really last a while. So, think about, are you trying to do something that's super restrictive? Will that work for you long-term? But I think it'd be a challenge just to see if people could do it. Like, can you do one plant-based meal this week that doesn't have meat in it?
Love that. Yes, absolutely. Especially if you're looking to dip your toes in the water of having more plants, right? Not even necessarily cutting out this or that, but if you're looking to have more plants in your life, how can you
just one meal
introduce it? Yes. Love that.
That's it. I like to say meatless Mondays, but like do whatever. I don't care.
That's just catchy. I like it.
Yeah. But like, just try it. Like, you never know. You might love it and realize, oh, I didn't know I could make beans that tasted so good.
Exactly.
Like that's why I love lentil stew. It's always an easy one for me.
Delightful.
But unfortunately, it's about that time.
That one really actually flew by.
I know. I love talking about protein. We could talk about it forever.
Too.
But unfortunately, we must end now. But thank you all for listening and enjoying this episode with us. And of course, if you do want to work with us, we do have dietitians who can work with you and be your Sherpas.
We do.
You're welcome to go on our website, positivechoice.org. But also make sure you like and share and subscribe this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, you can comment below. With that being said, until next time, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Looking to stay strong, steady, and active as you age? Join us at the Positive Choice Integrative Wellness Center for Senior Strength, a gentle yet effective group fitness class designed specifically for older adults or anyone with mobility limitations or just wants to get started. In just 1 hour, you'll move through light cardio, strength-building exercises, and modified yoga poses, all tailored to support your balance, flexibility, and confidence. This in-person group class is welcoming, supportive, and led by experienced instructors who understand your needs. Visit positivechoice.org/group fitness to learn more and sign up today.